In 1999, Morpheus offered Neo a choice between a red pill and a blue pill. In 2018, this country fractured between red and blue. In 2022, I'm here to tell you that if you really want the truth, more voters are neither red or blue. Yet, they have no representation, no choice, and no options. They have to choose between candidates chosen by the red people or the blue people. I'm David Esrati, and I'm running for Congress as an American, as in red, white, and blue. I'm a veteran, an activist, and a small businessman. I'm asking you to join me in reminding the professional politicians in Congress who their bosses are. I support ranked choice voting, campaign finance reform, and a verified voter information system, all so we can stop having the best politicians money can buy. It's time to elect a veteran who will work for you, no matter what color they want to label you. Please go to electesrati.com and learn more. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Jurassic Park, you thought those little baby dinosaurs were cute until they turned into out-of-control carnivores. That's sort of what happens to government when we elect people based on very expensive advertising campaigns and propaganda. I'm David Esrati. I'm a veteran and a small businessman running for Congress. You don't want professional ad people and pollsters to sway your vote. All those hot-button issues like gun control, abortion, borders are all politicized to stop you from voting rationally. And thinking rationally seems to be in short supply these days. Most Americans have been voting against their own best self-interest for a long time because we've allowed money to buy our leaders. 1 million Americans died in the last 2 years because our leaders couldn't lead. It wasn't that hard. Mask, distance, test, and then vaccinate. In an instant, we had billions to spend on healthcare for COVID, when for years we've been told we can't provide healthcare for everyone equally in this country. That's an unintended consequence of the pandemic. If you think about it, our government can pretty much do whatever it wants, or what the people who buy our politicians tell our leaders to do. We also had a ton of money to prop up businesses. The next thing you know, it turns out that a living wage was not only possible, but necessary. As a small businessman who won't sell you out to corporate interests and lobbyists, I can tell you that it's time to fully understand the consequences of companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google and their effect on small business, and to remind you that small business is the #1 creator of jobs in this country. So this next election, don't trust this ad or any other political ad. Do your homework and think before you vote. It's time to put this ad man in Congress because I know that the best advertising is based on the truth, not the size of the budget or payroll. Or you can just vote based on who has the money to buy their way into Congress and live with the consequences. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. I'm David Esrati, and today, October 13th, 2022, we just had this last meeting of the January 6th Commission to talk about the Trump problem. And the fact that it's taken this long to get to where we are today, and Donald Trump has still been running around loose, running his mouth, inciting people, still screaming that the election was stolen despite zero evidence of such, is a pox on our country. What we saw today was an absolute indictment that not only did the Secret Service know in advance that the January 6th insurrection was coming, that Donald Trump knew, his advisors knew. They wanted it to happen. They had planned before the election to say the votes wouldn't matter. They wanted to stop the American public from choosing their next president. They wanted to do it themselves. Over 30 of them have pled the fifth. You plead the fifth when you are guilty. You plead the fifth, General Flynn, when you're a coward. Of any of the people, a four-star general of the United States military should never, ever plead the fifth. And the fact that people in Congress went along with this wild malarkey, that 170 whatever of them refused to accept the results of the very election that they were in, and that they stayed in power, is a dangerous statement to the future of our country. When I joined the military, when Mike Turner went up there put his hand up and swore on a Bible to defend the Constitution from enemies foreign and domestic, he has failed to do it, and I will make sure that it gets done. Mike Turner is just as much of the problem. Defending Trump, who he used to loathe, defending Trump for taking top secret documents to Mar-a-Lago, which was absolutely illegal. Defending Trump on all that there was something wrong with this investigation, when we in fact know that they had been subpoenaing him for the entire time. They knew which documents he had, and that they had the security footage showing people with those documents and moving the boxes. There was no question. There was no question that the people outside the perimeter on January 6th who wouldn't go through the magnetometers were armed and ready to go. In fact, one of them said, Trump has given us marching orders, keep your guns hidden. Another instructed participants to bring full kits, 180 rounds minimum for main rifle, another 50 per sidearm per person. That's war. That's a declaration of war. And by the strangest of circumstances, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, who is a filmmaker, I didn't know this, was there to document some of it. So in the secure location, she's filming as Nancy. And Adam and Steny Hoyer and Schumer are calling the Attorney General, are calling governors, asking for the National Guard to come as they watch on their TVs what's happening to the building that they are in. Nancy called, they're poo-pooing on us. No, Nancy, that's when you don't say poo-poo, you say shit. Because that's what these people did. They took a shit on our country. Now, they're asking to subpoena Donald Trump. He's going to plead the fifth. I don't care what he pleads. The evidence is clear, compelling, and copious. There is no excuse for what happened. his actions, anything he did. In fact, if you ask me, the thing we should be finding out is, who is he really working for? Because it wasn't ever us. If I had to take a guess, he was Putin's puppet. Because everything he did sure seems to make sense when you put it in that framework to digest what happened. We had a Manchurian candidate named Donald J. Trump running this country. And he needs to be taken down. His supporters need to be taken down. And when I say taken down, I mean thrown in prison. Even though if you do look at what the Constitution states is what happens when you commit treason, it's very clear about what we do to people who commit treason. We don't have to do that. We can put them all in Club Fed. They can stay there until they rot. But this was a clear, concentrated attack on democracy. The Secret Service, at this point, who lost all of their cell phone texts, are still in trouble. They found the emails, they found the Microsoft Teams, they found all kinds of other communications. And at this point, I would question whether the Secret Service needs to be totally rebuilt from the ground up. Because anybody involved in this operation is suspect of being a traitor. When Trump told them to let them through with the magnetometers, just let them through, because he knew they weren't out to kill him. The fact that they didn't says they knew what was going on. And the reality is, if we're going to have all these people running around with their own armies and not being part of a well-regulated militia, every one of us deserves the same kind of protection. Magnetometers on entries to your neighborhood, entries to the bank, entries to the library, entries everywhere. And anybody caught carrying and concealing a weapon who is not in a uniform of a well-regulated militia, involved in military duties, we should take their guns and shoot them too. I don't want to live in a state of war for the rest of my life. I don't want to live in a state that acknowledges that Donald Trump even existed or had power. I don't want to believe that the 3 people that he nominated to the Supreme Court are legitimate. I don't believe that the people who voted that the election didn't count are legitimate. And I don't believe that the ability for them to remove the rights of women to choose what to do with their own bodies was legitimate. At some point, we need to just take the entire 4-year stretch of Donald Trump, plus the aftermath, and wipe it the same way the Germans wiped away the Nazis after World War II. After World War II, nobody was a Nazi. We need to end this Trump BS. I was talking to a friend the other day. What do I do about the flags my neighbors are flying saying, "Fuck Joe Biden"? That's the President of the United States. Now, I understand we have a First Amendment, but your children shouldn't have to see that. I see we've got some comments, and I've been bad. And Mark says I'm sounding like a complete nut, but I don't think Mark was watching the evidence today, and Tam is right. The reality is, criminal activity took place. It was criminality of the highest level. It's continuing, and it needs to be stopped. This midterm, the ultimate check and balance, we can't even trust the people in Congress to do the right things. The ultimate answer is to remove the sitting Republicans who have gone along with this nonsense, every last one of them, and give our country a chance to heal. There is no defense for taking home top secret documents, no matter who you are. They belong in a SCIF. There is no defense for inciting riots and people to come to the Capitol carrying guns. There is no excuse for planning to say that the election was stolen and that the results weren't there. I hope Dominion, the people who make the voting machines, sue every last one of them and take everything they have. The Alex Jones decision yesterday for $985 million, that's apparently the only way we're going to be able to do these things. And if he can't pay, then we take everything he has and we throw him in prison for the rest of his life. It's gotten to the point where people have to be held accountable in this country.
Does Mark know that the Republicans who are on Trump's side refuse to be questioned? He's less comment.
Yeah. Okay, Mark. Basically a trial that has a prosecutor and no defense. No, that's not how this works. And yes, these people, some of them have switched over and started testifying now because they want to be on the right side of history. Almost all the people testifying were Republicans. And what they were testifying was that Trump and his staff committed treason. Treason leading to insurrection, leading to the division of our country, and questioning the validity of our elections is the basic principle of what this country stands on. Ultimately, we the people, are supposed to be in charge of this. No matter how many billionaires back Mike Turner, unless they're handing you $10 to go in there and vote for them, you still have a decision to make. It's up to you to make that decision. Justice rolls so slow in this country. Lawyers don't seem to know how to act. They don't know how to get things done. We seem to get bogged down in all the confusion. But when it's this clear what had happened, that the layperson can understand it, we have to do a better job of cleaning up the mess a lot quicker. If you think about it, we put people in prison for a lot less, a lot faster than we've dealt with Donald Trump. We have the evidence. It is clear, it is convincing, it's compelling that he was criminal. This needs to stop, and it needs to stop right now. And the litmus test should be, everybody should be asking your candidate, do you believe Donald Trump should be indicted? Do you believe he should be charged? And should he serve time for what he did leading up to the insurrection and after? There is no other question if you want our country to remain free, open, and have some modicum of integrity. Because right now, the criminals have been running the zoo for a long time. And it's time to stop. Again, watching footage of Congressman Nancy Pelosi fearing for the future of this country because Trump is leading an insurrection and they knew it, and yet they still haven't done anything. We have a Congress that is impotent at this point. If they want to really show us what they're capable of, it's time to end the malarkey and take Donald Trump and throw him up on the stand, and when he starts pleading the fifth, indict him anyway. There is no other question. As to the Mark's asking me about the Ohio governor, well, since we don't have ranked choice elections, Mark, and we have to choose between two criminals, I'm going to pick the one that hasn't trampled my rights and those of women by banning abortion, by allowing any idiot to carry a gun and expecting teachers to carry guns in schools. For that, Mike DeWine cannot have my vote or anybody's vote. And I'll gladly vote for the corrupt Nan Whaley because the next thing that will happen is I'll finally get the tapes from the grand jury and we'll have Cheryl Stevens as our governor. And I'm fine with that. So, I'm answering that question. Any other questions from the peanut gallery? Because I'm happy to clear things up. And by the way, I was wrong yesterday. I mixed up my corals. Tam lives in Cape Coral, where it was wiped out, not Coral, or anyway, she can comment. But yeah, she took some heavy hits from Ian, and I'm glad she's back online. What do I do for Congress? And we'll do again. Don't vote for either of them, Mark says. So you're not going to vote for me or Mike Turner? Here's my general rule on almost every congressional race. Vote for the person who has the least amount of money, because they're generally the honest one. This country's been bought, sold, and paid for by billionaires. It continues to be bought, sold, and paid for by billionaires, and there's nothing we can do about it except vote the billionaires' choices out if we want to have a chance at owning our country again. We have to overturn Citizens United. There is no question about that. I want to institute a donor registration system. I don't think that's a hard sell. We have a voter registration system. It shouldn't be that complicated to switch the two. Anyways, Fort Myers Beach is pretty dear to Mark's heart. Yeah, well, she's not in Fort Myers. She's in, I wish I could remember my corals. But yeah, she's just happy she's back on with internet again. Again, I am happy to answer any of your questions. Update this Sunday at 9:45. I will be on the Truman's Town Hall podcast, and it's available on multiple channels. You can find it on the events page of my blog. I'm on Elect Esrati. Elect Esrati also has a complete, for OH-10, slate card. That means it has everybody, the write-ins, the people not endorsed who are Democrats. It is on the website. It is available to everybody now. Other news. We still have the Reach app and ask that you download it, load in your contacts, start contacting your friends and getting them on board and making them promise to vote and bring 3 friends. Because this November 8th, we have to turn out to vote. We can't sit at home. We can't forget about it. We have to vote. I have nothing else, and I don't see any other questions. So I'm going to end it right here. We'll be back tomorrow at 4. Do this every day. Because Mike Turner won't debate me, and he won't ever have a town hall. My plan is to do this at the end of every day in Congress. Answer your questions. Tell you what happened so that you know what's going on. Still could use donations at electesrati.com/donate. We just gave away a signed Shepherd Ferry print to a random donor. We'll do it again this week. So get your donations in.
You got some questions this week.
Joseph McKibben asked, thoughts on transition to a less car-centric culture? There you go. That's something I'm a big fan of. So, for instance, this new Honda plant. Of course, they're making cars, and where do they do it? They do it in the cornfields of Fayette County. I happen to know that area pretty well because that's where I used to have to drive to go for my reserve duty. There weren't enough people in that area to keep a diner open. So everybody that's going to go to that plant is going to have to get in a car and go. Whereas if we built it on the Dayton Tire plant over off of Riverview, we would have people that could walk to work, people that could use mass transit to get to work, people who need the jobs. But no, Honda, unfortunately, is inherently racist and avoids any place with a minority representation when they cite their plants. Mike DeWine, the rest of those people at Jobs Ohio, they'll never actually acknowledge that. But that's why they're building plants, and they build all those plants up in Marysville and Anna and everywhere else. I believe we absolutely need to upgrade our rail infrastructure, move away from trucking. Think we need to have sprawl limits. We've talked about that before. And we need to incentivize people who can walk to work. Both the employer and the person, the worker, should get tax credits for that, because anybody who can get to work without driving, like I do, is helping the environment. Somebody says, because Turner doesn't want to look like Vance. That's why Turner doesn't want to debate me, Chuck. That's part of it, because I'd actually ask those questions. And plus, Mike Turner really doesn't know what to say if somebody hasn't fed it into him. There's a little slot in the back. You insert the paper and it just gushes out the front. The paper being money. Anyways, I'm happy to debate Mike Turner. There's a change.org petition. If you want to sign that to say, why doesn't Mike Turner debate me? That would be awesome. We're working on our new commercial. Should have it out hopefully next day or so. Monday at the latest. And that's all I have. So I don't see any other comments. And thank you all for watching. And we will see you tomorrow at 4. Thank you.